I'm Canadian, working with Canada's largest talk station. And I went from radio production to television production to newspaper production. I wrote a column, did a bunch of different things, quite a circuitous journey, and sort of became this all-in-one media expert. And then about 12 years ago, I met a small law firm at the time named Diamond & Diamond. They were a family firm of about probably 30 people at the time. And I've spent the last 12 years growing them into the largest personal injury law firm in Canada. I specialize through my agency with my team in generating traffic for people in unorthodox ways. I'm not a big proponent of just doing what everyone else is doing, just running some AdWords. If you and your competitor are spending the same amount of money on cost per click on Google, let's say it's $25 a click, you're not really going to get ahead. If you're, on the other hand, developing a really comprehensive SEO strategy, you will. And that would be something great when you sell the business. That's why I'm such a fan of the digital space, right? Because it has so much data that comes with it. So, you can track everything. So on your AdWords campaign or a Facebook campaign or an SEO campaign, you have so much data to work with. And then let's say it's an SEO campaign, I can see, okay, how many leads am I driving to your site? Let's say how much has your organic traffic gone up? What's your conversion rate? Is that improving? And then we can work backwards to see, okay, how much is it costing us to get a lead? What's the conversion rate, et cetera. A lot of the traffic in certain spaces, it's moving, it's going to different places. Like, let's say 20% of the searches for a certain niche are down. Do you know where they're going? ChatGPT or Claude or any of these different AI programs. And I'm amazed at the amount of lawyers that I talk to that are just sort of sitting ducks. I just find nowadays with a lot of people, they are scared to spend, and it is difficult, but it's about getting creative, because I have clients that spend a third of the spend of their competitor, but we find ways to get more traffic. We find ways to leverage AI for content generation, build a presence on Reddit, like I mentioned, Pinterest, Quora, optimizing for YouTube Shorts, partnering with influencers. Maybe you have a legal webinar that you're hosting on TikTok and Instagram. I mean, there's tons and tons of ways to generate traffic on an organic level that you don't have to spend a lot of money. My biggest advice for people is start to understand themselves, understand what motivates them, understand what they actually want. Say it's a law firm owner. Do they actually want what comes with success? Do they have the ability to overcome certain barriers that they might have in their subconscious programming about money and success?
Well, hello and welcome to another podcast interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm excited today because we're going to be talking marketing. And marketing is something that never gets old when it comes to law firms, well, any business for that matter, because we all need new clients. We need clients coming in. We need a steady revenue, a steady stream of clients that translates into a steady revenue stream in our business. And marketing is what is going to create that. That is the thing that's going to generate the leads that are going to turn into the clients in your business. Now, you may not need more leads to grow your business if you're not converting those leads into sales at a high enough rate. That's not the conversation we're going to have today. We're basically going to just talk about marketing in general, getting people in the door, different things like that. I have a great guest today for you. Our guest today is Jordan Whelan. Jordan Whelan is the founder of Gray Smoke Media with a background as a TV and radio producer and a publicist. He's managed over $3 billion in class action claims communications. He spent a decade mastering media buying, managing over $50 million in spend and digital marketing, achieving the proverbial 10,000 hours of practice. Whelan's insight have appeared in over 100 international outlets, including the New York Post and Forbes. In his personal time, he's an accomplished singer-songwriter with over 3 million streams on Spotify. And I actually didn't ask him what type of music he's singing and songwriting, so maybe we'll ask him that here on the show. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Moshe. I appreciate you having me on.
It's my pleasure. So I said I'll ask you. So what style of music are you singing and songwriting?
It's a blend of indie pop, EDM. It's kind of all over the board, actually, at the moment. I actually just started making music about a year ago. The bio's a little outdated, not to be pedantic, but it's about 5 million streams at the moment. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've been in digital marketing space for about 12 years now. And I just started making music on the side, and it's been a blast. So I think the genres will keep developing as time goes on, but it's a hobby / side career for me at the moment.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into our conversation. People want to know who the heck is this guy, Jordan? Give us a little bit of your backstory. How'd you get into marketing, specifically the law firm niche? Just give us that little insight into your journey.
Yeah, so my background's was in radio and television production, working with, I'm Canadian, working with Canada's largest talk station. And I went from radio production to television production to newspaper production. I wrote a column, did a bunch of different things, quite a circuitous journey, and sort of became this all-in-one media expert. And then about 12 years ago, I met a small law firm at the time named Diamond and Diamond. They were a family firm of about probably 30 people at the time. And I've spent the last 12 years growing them into the largest personal injury law firm in Canada, handling the media buying, SEO, digital strategy, and negotiations with major sporting teams in the NFL and NHL. And Gray Smoke Media itself was sort of born out of realizing that the media was a wonderful way to get what we see PR as sort of free advertising. So I would get my clients in the media, and then I realized that there was a symbiosis between the actual media hit and then SEO, digital strategy. And so I kept kind of growing it out, and I'm a bit of an autodidact. And so as I grew Diamond and Diamond to the largest PI firm, we also grew them to the largest real estate law firm in Canada. And then this generalized marketing firm, which was Gray Smoke Media, was niched down to just lawyers about 2 years ago. And that's kind of become my main specialty at the moment.
Now, you did mention in the green room that you're working primarily with PI firms. Are you taking on non-PI firms, or is it a strict niche for you?
I'm taking on firms sort of that are in that upper echelon, that final echelon, that want to get to be a major market player. That tends to be PI. They have quite a big budget. And it's a great industry to work in. But I will take anyone who's trying to get into that final echelon, who already sort of has an established marketing plan in place, and then I'm trying to bring them to the next level.
So what's interesting is that there's so many different places for somebody to market. I mean, between the media buying that everybody who has a dollar to spend can get access to, which is your Google, your Facebook, stuff like that. And then the stuff that you need to have a budget for, a serious budget for, TV, radio, billboards. What's your... I guess the question that I grapple with every time I have a marketer on here, and I think is the question that people listening are grappling with, is how do I know when is the right time to invest in each of these different areas? And then there's stuff that like we don't even think about. Like you mentioned PR, or in your bio we mentioned PR, and I think you might have even mentioned that a moment ago in giving us your story. It's something that it's almost a forgotten trade for most law firms, right? Like there's a ton of value in getting press mentions and having opportunities to be that expert that's broadcast on media when they're talking about a news thing. Like if you're a criminal defense attorney and there's somebody who gets arrested and they will just want to snip it with somebody who's an expert to talk about the charges and talk about what they might be facing, or why they might not be guilty of the crime. Those opportunities are there, but I don't think a lot of people are thinking about those or taking advantage of those. So not to go off on a tangent, there's a lot of options that somebody has at every stage of growth. What's the best way that you can describe or tell our listeners, regardless of where they're at in their growth, like how should they think about this and how should they navigate this type of decision?
Well, Gray Smoke Media itself right now is the only all-in-one legal marketing agency in the world. And I say that in the sense that we handle everything from media buying to SEO to PR to digital strategy, reputation management. One of the things I realized in working in these different subsets of marketing is it's all one. There's a natural symbiosis. And the idea is, are you going to hire 5 agencies that can't really talk to each other? Or are you going to come to someone like us? You could, the answer to your question is really, it depends on where you want to go. I mean, you could run a law firm just on SEO and AdWords. Many people do. Many people run a law firm on word of mouth, small advertising, or maybe they're kind of a legacy company that everyone knows. It depends on what you want to get to. I mean, they all kind of work together. What's interesting about PR was that at the time, you get someone on a media outlet, like you mentioned, there's a natural credibility associated with it. And so if you're in the New York Post, you can put on your website as seen on the New York Post, then you're leveraging off their credibility, you're piggybacking, then you can leverage that for a backlink perhaps that might benefit your SEO strategy. Maybe then when someone Googles about your firm, it comes up in the results. We call that SERPs. And so you can see how it kind of jumps into different categories from one hit. Depending on your niche, nowadays I specialize through my agency with my team in generating traffic for people in unorthodox ways. I'm not a big proponent of just doing what everyone else is doing, just running some AdWords. If you and your competitor are spending the same amount of money on cost per click on Google, let's say it's $25 a click, you're not really going to get ahead. If you're, on the other hand, developing a really comprehensive SEO strategy, you will. And that would be something great when you sell the business. But nowadays, if you want to go outside of SEO and AdWords and you want to branch out, it really depends on your industry. A PI is notorious, obviously, for your billboards and stuff like that. But even if you don't have a big budget, there's tons of great ways to generate traffic. And my school of thought is go where the people are. So at the moment, those people might be on Reddit. Do you want to build a presence on Reddit? Some of those people might be on Pinterest. Some of those people might be on YouTube Shorts. Some of those people might be on Quora. Do you want to go in there and answer some legal questions? It's really about controlling the many inroads to your business. So if you Google your actual law firm name, you can see how people are finding out about you. Where do you come up? Or you Google personal injury lawyer New York, you see what comes up. And it's about controlling those different ways that people would then come inbound to your website.
So, talking about this, like, hey, go where the people are, and just Reddit or Quora. What's the strategy there? Are you buying ads on those platforms, or are you literally going in and participating in the conversation? And if that's the case, then are we talking about a solo practitioner that's doing that? Because I can't imagine somebody who's running a multi-million-dollar firm having time to sit there on Reddit and participate in conversations. So what does that look like?
Well, that would sort of be your unorthodox ways of getting traffic. If I'm a small firm and my competitor has 3 times my budget, how do I come up with creative ways to get traffic? So that's what I was kind of referring to. If you have a set budget and you want to get out there and actually start spending, what you do is essentially you get a really great SEO company. I'm a big proponent of SEO. Why Google's king is psychologically, you can't really capture someone at the exact moment that they want something, right? I need a red couch. Here's a red couch. That's why that connection, that nexus between, hey, I'm looking for a car accident lawyer in New York. Hey, I'm looking for a slip and fall lawyer. That's why that connection is so valuable. And so I always tell people, start with the SEO strategy, build it out. Start with your AdWords strategy, kind of build it out. And then sort of think, like, where are my clients? Where do I think that they might hear me? And it also, you have to take into account, like, what are my competitors doing? I had a client a few years ago that was a divorce lawyer, and we were going to run some radio ads because we'd kind of exhausted SEO and AdWords, and we'd done some YouTube, and it was working well, but we wanted to scale up. And he had come to us and he said, I want to run some radio ads. When do I run them? Now, a lot of people run radio ads as sort of an ego boost. It's like your realtor who buys the billboard outside their home so that people see them. But we got really strategic with it, and we did some research, and we found out that 70% of divorces were initiated by women. And then we found out that those women or couples were usually fighting in the morning. So that's they call it your morning drive on radio, and then you've got your afternoon drive home. And so what we did is we bought ads solely on a station that was dominated by women, instead of just doing this spray and pray where you buy ads on different stations, sports stations, etc. And we bought them in the morning session around 8:30, 8:45 is usually when people were driving to work, and purchased them on this station, and they did really, really well. But that's an example of doing the psychological research necessary to go through with a media buy instead of just buying it, because their competitor was spending a lot of money. They were spending much more than this divorce lawyer client, but they were putting it everywhere and kind of trying different things, and just understanding the psychology of your actual client, where they are, what time they were listening to the radio, and how they were behaving. We were able to get much more leads than their client by spending less. And so it's really about smart marketing, where you go and actually find people. And some of that might take a focus group. It might take you sitting down with your staff. It might take you looking through your web traffic, seeing where people are coming from. It's really important to understand who your client is and what they want, instead of just going out there and spending money.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense, and really putting it into that context of, hey, look, this is the place where you can put in some sweat equity that's going to work for the solo, the small, that has a minimal budget, and then here's the way that you can be even smarter with those bigger spends that you're doing, and get more bang for your buck, and more success in the efforts that you're putting in by doing some of that research. Another thing that's been a big challenge. So we do fractional CFO work. We work with larger law firms, and we help them with figuring out how to make more money for the owner, not how to bring in more revenue specifically, but how does the owner make more profit? And one of the things that I found is that through attribution, we're able to identify that a lot of law firms are doing a poor job of monitoring what the results are of their spend and then making adjustments through that. We had a client that when we came in the door, they were spending $30,000 a month on Google. Not a huge spend, but big for a lot of firms. In the grand scheme of things, that's $360,000 a year. What we found is when we started to dig into the data, they were running 6 campaigns. Only one of them had a ROAS over 3x, a return on ad spend of 3 times the investment. Just saying that for the people who don't know the terminology. The other 5 campaigns were running below 2. And for this particular firm, the way that they're set up and the way they were paying their attorneys, they needed to be at 1.8 to break even on committed costs on a client that comes in. So they were literally losing money on the rest of that spend. That one campaign that was working, $6,000 a month. So we cut 5 campaigns. There was resistance there. The sales team was like, no, you can't not give us more leads. You got to cut out our lead sources. I'm like, no, you understand. You're not getting sales from this. Anyway, we cut it out. We saved $24,000 a month. Now we got to reallocate that to another area of the budget. Why am I sharing this story? As the budget grows, we can just keep throwing more and more mud at the wall to see what sticks. Or we could look at the data and then continue to make good decisions based on what that data is telling us. And the gap or the problem or the place where I find some of our larger clients are grappling with is, how do I track or know what the results of my TV ads are? How do I track or know what the results are of my billboards that are out there on the highway? How do we measure whether this is something that we should lean into more or we should cut back on? So can you give us some insight into what you do with your clients to figure out, like your morning radio show, for example, right? Like that might have been the best place to place radio spots, but does that mean that we shouldn't be placing spots in the evening? Did we test it to see what the results are of those spots? And then how would you measure that test when you go to market with it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm such a fan of the digital space, right? Because it has so much data that comes with it. So, you can track everything. So on your AdWords campaign or a Facebook campaign or an SEO campaign, you have so much data to work with. And then let's say it's an SEO campaign, I can see, okay, how many leads am I driving to your site? Let's say how much has your organic traffic gone up? What's your conversion rate? Is that improving? And then we can work backwards to see, okay, how much is it costing us to get a lead? What's the conversion rate, etc. I think at a home space and stuff like that, you have to remember each part of the marketing mix is going to function a different way. You have to already be an established brand to be buying major billboards on a highway. A lot of people do it as an ego play. And what happens is it doesn't really work, right? The billboard is functioning as top of mind awareness. That's what we call it. So I already know you. I would name you in a focus group. Now let me keep you top of mind as you go about your life. And the answer to your question is you use different unique URLs and phone numbers to track where they're coming from. But it's not easy. I think you get to the point where you're buying bus ads and radio ads and TV ads and stuff like that. You're in a place where you're probably doing very well. And so you can kind of guess where they're coming from. But I have used unique URLs. You can use tracking URLs. You can use phone numbers, stuff like that, to kind of guess where they're coming from. You can also ask people, but the problem is if you ask leads where they heard about you, if you're someone like, say, Diamond and Diamond that I work with, I mean, we're working with many, many publishers across the country, and usually people will say TV because there's some sort of Hollywood element to it where they heard you there. But they might have also saw you on Facebook. They might have also saw you other places. So it is difficult in that sense. That's why I do advocate for younger firms, those infancy stages, to start with that which gives you a lot of data, So your Facebook campaign or your Meta campaign, your SEO, your AdWords, work with the data, kind of figure out who's your ideal client. If you're a divorce lawyer, in that specific client's example, the client that you actually want is actually mid to upper range, because the people that make $250,000, $300,000 a year, they ask their friends for a divorce lawyer. So we found from our information that we were gathering is that we actually want the client in the range of about 70 to 90K. And from that, we can kind of use that data to figure out what's working.
Yeah, very interesting. And I guess the unique URLs and URLs are fine. Like everything's QR codes now. If you have it on the TV screen, just put the QR code up there. Somebody's gonna pull their camera out. But unique phone numbers can be more challenging if you have a catchy phone number that you're using that phone number as your identifier on all your marketing. So that, that could be a challenge, but I understand that there are ways to track it, but also that we don't necessarily have to track it to be able to believe it works. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm going through this with one of our fractional CFO clients right now. They're spending, $100-something thousand a month, and maybe that's a lot, maybe it's not, I don't know. But for them, we need to get to a certain amount of new clients a month. We should be hitting it based on that spend, but we're not. And half of that spend, or a little bit more than half, is going to that out of market media. And I mean, we know what the results are of the digital spend. So that 50,000 a month is producing a minuscule result for what we have as far as our goals and client acquisition costs and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, like how do you navigate something like that where, like, okay, we know what we want to create. Is it just refocus some of those dollars to the digital side where we know we could produce those results, or how do you navigate that for your clients? Where, I mean, I don't think anybody has an unlimited budget, right? Like it's pretty much like the budget can be bigger for some than for others, but there's always a budget. There's always a choice that has to be made of where that money is getting allocated.
Yeah, I would probably say Morgan & Morgan's the one exception to that in America. I think their spend's about $100 million a year or something. So that's pretty unlimited to me at this point. I think it's it comes down to just data. I'm a data nerd, so you have to look at the data. You have to look where they're coming from. You have to also look at their behavior on your website. You install something like Hotjar, they load your website, they come. Where are they clicking off? Where are they going to? It's also just small things, Moshe, like what your website evokes in people. You might be getting tons of traffic from your digital campaign, but if I come to your website and I'm a woman and I don't see a woman represented, I might be clicking off right at the top rotator. Is your website slow? Is it there's a million different things, and one of the things I really try to stay nimble with my team and the things that I'm into is I had a client last year say to me, my organic traffic's down 20%, but my leads are up. And I say, yeah, because we've optimized, we've gotten rid of the junk. I mean, you were getting traffic for divorce lawyer statistics. People were trying to write a paper for school. Doesn't matter. That's not converting at the end of the day. But it's also one of the things I had to mention to him is a lot of the traffic in the SEO space is gone and it's not coming back. What you have to remember is the term SEO is really everything. It's the search bar on YouTube. It's the search bar on TikTok. It's the search bar on Facebook. If I search for, let's say, personal injury lawyer in New York, because I keep going back to that example, it's what comes up in SERPs, which we call our search results, page one results. Right now, it's Facebook videos. Right now, it's Instagram videos. Right now, it's TikTok videos. The fact that people are posting a video on Facebook and not immediately posting it to the other platforms when those can land on page one is rather fatuous, I would say. And I also would say that, a lot of the traffic in certain spaces, it's moving, it's going to different places. Like, let's say 20% of the searches for a certain niche are down, where they're going? ChatGPT or Claude or any of these different AI programs. And I'm amazed at the amount of lawyers that I talk to that are just sort of sitting ducks, that they're not optimizing for voice search, that they're not using AI for retargeting. They haven't optimized at all. And right now, let's say there could be 25,000 people right now looking for a personal injury lawyer or a divorce lawyer on their ChatGPT instead of Google. and their agency hasn't stepped in and picked up that traffic. So it really comes into like just sitting with the numbers and diving through them and seeing where leads are coming from, what is converting, but also where people are finding out about you. And that's changing by the hour, I would say.
Switching marketing vendors is it's a major move. It's kind of like, I don't know, upgrading spouses or something. I don't know what, I mean, it's a bad example, I guess, but
I like the example.
It's a major decision, a major change, right? But when, like, there's so many vendors out there that are not keeping up with the times, right? Some of the stuff that you just said, like, I can't believe that you're, doing this, that, and the other, like, using AI for retargeting. Like, I don't think most of the vendors out there are even having these conversations with their clients. I don't know if they don't know or if they're afraid of it or staying away from it. Like, I'm not sure what's happening, but as an owner, how do you decide, like, okay, this vendor is not keeping up with the times, I need to evaluate somebody else? And then owners are not supposed to be the expert in the room, right? So, like, is this something that needs to be a constant conversation, that we're constantly interviewing marketers out there to know what's out there and to keep up with it? I guess people go to conferences, they hear talks, we pick up information here and there. They'll listen to this podcast. They'll listen to what you just said and they'll be like, oh, wait a second. I don't think I'm getting that. How should an owner treat that relationship they have with their agency, and what should they be doing to stay on top of it, knowing that they're not the expert?
Well, to be frank, lawyers are notoriously pompous. So I have dealt with some amazing lawyers that are incredibly deferential and know what they don't know and are willing to listen. And that's what I do credit Diamond and Diamond. I mean, we grew that law firm from 30 people to 650 because the owners did not have a big ego. They knew what they didn't know. They were deferred to experts. I will tell you honestly, and I really, at the risk of sounding arrogant, I don't feel like I have a lot of competitors because I am a bit of a nerd and I stay up to date with trends like voice search ads, how ads are becoming interactive, programmatic audio ads, the way everything's changing monthly. I would say usually if your intuition tells you that your agency doesn't know what they're talking about, they probably don't. And usually a lot of people just, lawyers are busy. They don't have time to worry about this stuff. And so you want to kind of hire an agency. I always say to people, let us be the last agency you hire, because you want to hire an agency that's just spending a great deal of their time staying on top of trends. I went into one area with a client and we just maximized their Google My Business page, which is something that almost no one thinks to do, especially these major firms, posting things like case studies and Q&As and giving people really valuable content. And we were able to pick up probably about $100,000 in new business a month just by basically optimizing that page over a few months. Their previous agency had not thought to do it. You have to also remember the agency model is a lot of people are working on tight margins. So you say you want so many hours for them to research and learn new things and stay nimble for you, but you're paying them XYZ. That's why when it comes to my fees and what I charge, I don't really justify my fees. I just basically say, well, you can pay someone $4,000 a month and get an ROI of 3X, or you can pay me 8 and get a 12X. That's really the way that I look at it. But it is tough because a lot of people are, they're stale. They're doing the same tactics from 3 years ago. And if your industry lost 20% of their traffic in the past 6 months to ChatGPT or any of these platforms, go on your ChatGPT now. If you're listening to this as a law firm owner or just a member of a law firm, go on ChatGPT and search if your firm comes up, and then do that on different AI platforms like Claude. And if you don't come up, start to calculate how many people you're losing per month, and it might shock you at this point.
Yeah. This is good stuff. And just, I mean, you mentioned your fees. I mean, this is a whole nother topic. I don't want to actually go down this rabbit hole because, well, we're pretty close to being out of time. So we're going to wrap up and close out this episode. But, I recently had, a client want to add LSAs for a particular practice area. So they're already running LSAs. They have a flat fee vendor managing their LSA account. And they went to their SEO vendor and said, hey, can you do the LSAs for this? And they said, yeah, well, and they proposed a percentage of spend for that. Historically, your Google PPC vendors or AdWords vendors have been charging based on percentage of spend, right? Where SEO has been more like a flat fee, here's what you get based on whatever level of service you're providing, which is, the number of posts we're doing or the number of backlinks we're creating or the goal to get us to the first page. But, hey, if we don't get there, we're going to blame it on the fact that you're not spending enough with us. You need to spend more so that we can do more things to get you there. How do you, when you're a hey, we do it all type of relationship and vendor, how do you price your services? How do you determine what you should be charging your clients and for the level of effort required? And I imagine that you're acting more like a CMO at that point. Like, we're going to actually set your marketing agenda. You don't need anybody, on your staff because we're going to do it all. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's kind of how, with the agency and then also on a personal level, it's sort of an internal CMO job. I mean, me personally, I'm kind of an expert in different subsets of legal marketing. So I've been able to do consulting for people where, the internal CMO is not working. But it depends on the type of law. I mean, listen, if you're in personal injury and you contact me and you want to be in the major market of Miami and your SEO budget is $7,000 and your competitor's spending $20,000, $25,000 even in the big areas, then that's fine. You can spend what you, but then don't come to us with oversized expectations. I mean, the way that SEO works is you have to spend a large percentage of that money on backlinks and content. And when I say content, I mean, like, again, talking about staying nimble, people are not reading anymore as much as they used to. So if you think you're going to write a 3,000 word article and rank for that, good luck. You're much better creating a 15 to 20 second video and then blasting it on all the individual platforms. And that still falls under the umbrella of SEO. The way I price at the end of the day, whether it's my hourly rate or is really just looking at people and saying, where do you want to go? I mean, where have you gone? What hasn't worked? Do you want to be a major market player? Not everyone wants that stress over them. But you have to look at the space and say, listen, on a transparent level, like, there are 150,000 searches in this area. Right now, you're gobbling up 5% of those on SEO. You want to get to 20. This is exactly how much it's going to cost. And this is exactly the ROI that you could expect. And then you kind of branch that out to everything from AdWords and stuff like that. I really, at the end of the day, our agency functions more as a business partner that you can really text at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, sort of a white glove service. We work with people to scale their businesses, scale their law firm to the final echelon and have experience doing that. I just find nowadays with a lot of people, they are scared to spend, and it is difficult, but it's about getting creative, because I have clients that spend a third of the spend of their competitor, but we find ways to get more traffic. We find ways to leverage AI for content generation, build a presence on Reddit, like I mentioned, Pinterest, Quora, optimizing for YouTube Shorts, partnering with influencers. Maybe you have a legal webinar that you're hosting on TikTok and Instagram. I mean, there's tons and tons of ways to generate traffic on an organic level that you don't have to spend a lot of money. But with our agency, you're really paying for unorthodox traffic generation. You're paying for creativity, but you're also just paying for brutal honesty. There are some people that need to have their head shaken in on a metaphysical level. Do they actually have the mindset to dominate? Do they actually have a good relationship with money and success? And that's its own conversation in itself.
Awesome. Love it. All right. We're going to wrap up here. I have two parting questions for you. One is, what is one parting piece of wisdom or advice that you have for our listeners? And number two, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about you if they liked what you had to share today? They want to, look into getting to know you more or working with your brand.
I think my biggest advice for people is start to understand themselves, understand what motivates them, understand what they actually want. Say it's a law firm owner. Do they actually want what comes with success? Do they have the ability to overcome certain barriers that they might have in their subconscious programming about money and success. And I always tell people to go on a journey with yourself, to look in the mirror, find out who you are, find out also on a level, do you want to actually serve people? Do you want a specific kind of client? Do you want a legacy for yourself? And that's something that a lot of people don't do. They go out there and they build a law firm and they hire people and get an HR person. But at the end of the day, particularly, let's say in industries like personal injury, they get a bad rap, but they are helping people. People are, have a lot of choice words about personal injury lawyers until they're actually injured. And they actually do some beautiful work for people. And there's something that motivates them on an intrinsic level, actually helping people. So that's my biggest thing that I say to people when they contact us is sort of, who are you and where do you want to go in the next 5 years? And what have you learned about yourself? And exploring that whole side of things. In terms of contacting me, it's greysmokemedia.com, GREY, smokemedia.com. You can book a 30-minute consultation with us. We really do work with people that are trying to get to that final echelon. Perhaps they're already entrenched in a certain area and they're stuck, or perhaps they work with 4 agencies, or perhaps their leads are plummeting. It is a very honest conversation like we want to have with people. And like I mentioned, we're very nimble on our toes. The space is changing very, very quick in terms of AI, and things are moving very quickly. And if you are not on top of it, you are going to be left to the wayside.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here, sharing with our audience, and being willing to be essentially an open book. I found it really insightful and helpful. I hope our listeners did as well. Folks, we're here every single Thursday with a brand new episode. You want to make sure you hit the subscribe button on your YouTube player, your podcast player, wherever you're tuning in from, so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. We'll be back next week with another amazing interview. And I just love bringing people in and being able to share these conversations with you. If you're feeling stuck, not sure where the next steps are for your business, trying to hit the next level of growth, and you just seem to be hitting the same thing over and over again, or worse, going the wrong direction for you, you definitely want to hook up with us for a free strategy session. In that call, we're going to help you get really clear about what it is that you should be aiming for the next 12 months, identify what are the things that are going to prevent you from hitting that, and then also, how can we overcome those? How can we get rid of those obstacles and actually be able to achieve that goal? If you want to take advantage of this absolutely free strategy session, go to profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. All of the links that we have shared on this episode will be in the show notes, which should be in your podcast player, as well as on our website at profitwithlaw.com. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye now.